Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here with us this evening for Lifetime Adoptions Q&A session for future adoptive parents. I'm Kim King, one of the adoptive family coordinators, and I am joined by Heather Featherston, the director of Lifetime Adoption. And we appreciate you taking some time to learn a little bit more about adoption, get some questions answered, hear what other families are asking. I know I answer adoptive family questions every day over the phone and by email, so there's no question out there that is too unusual, too big, or too small. Feel free to type those right into the questions box if you are joining us live, and we are happy to discuss those with you this evening. Just a few housekeeping things as far as communication with Lifetime. Of course, you can always give us a call at 1-800-923-6784. And most of you have probably been to our website at lifetimeadoption.com. And if you are new to Lifetime, you're exploring adoption, we recommend filling out our application on our website as your first step. That enables us to learn a little more about you and guide you according to your needs and circumstances to what steps you should take next toward your successful adoption. And that application is free online at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. Very easy to get to. And we have modified our application over the years so it is user-friendly, easy to fill out, should be something you can do in under 15 minutes. And our application process is pretty straightforward. You should get an email right away back confirming that we have electronically received it. And then shortly after that, either that day or the next day, you will hear from our applications department saying that we are now processing your application and should hear from us again soon. And hopefully from there we can have a phone conference to discuss a little more. And this is all, no obligation. It is here at your disposal to assist you and get some questions answered specific to your needs and your circumstances. Since we'll have your application, we'll know a little bit more about your adoption preferences and characteristics, be able to give you feedback as to what birth mothers are asking for in families, and just different things like that to help you along the way. So fill out the application online. Also, if you've not already joined us on social media, join us on Facebook. We are fun on Facebook. We have great conversations there. That's facebook.com/open.adoption. facebook.com/open.adoption, or you can just search in Facebook for Lifetime Adoption Center. We actually have quite a few people initially reach out to us through Facebook on the birth mother side and adoptive parent side. So that is a great way to stay connected. View our Facebook Live sessions, which are weekly, usually every Friday. Just stay up to date on what's going on here. Webinars are also a great way to stay in the loop and be more engaged with Lifetime, which is what we want. Since we are nationwide, it's nice to come together in a format such as this to discuss different things that are going on so that you can be more informed, more prepared, and encouraged as well, Heather. I think that's a big part too. We have a big education platform and also great availability. I know that our hotlines are open 24/7 for birth moms, so we really do want to engage with people on both sides of the adoption, birth parent side and adoptive parent side. Well, let's go ahead, Heather, unless there's anything else you wanted to add for housekeeping.
No, I think that's great.
Okay, so let's see here. We often get asked about this. This is a really good question. How does Lifetime choose a family for a sudden adoption opportunity? I know we call these drop in the lap adoptions.
Right.
Heather, can you share a little more about that?
Yeah, sometimes you hear them referred to as stork drops too.
Drive-bys.
Yeah, what those are is really when a woman calls from the hospital, typically, and says, I'm in labor, I've just had a baby, I want to make an adoption plan, or sometimes we may have taken one or two phone calls from a client who never followed through with the paperwork and those things, but she suddenly calls from the hospital. So that's kind of how it happens. And the reason it happens so quickly, kind of from the birth mother perspective, is that whenever women call Lifetime or any adoption organization, they're calling to learn about adoption, to try to find how it works. What does modern adoption look like? What do I have to do? What does this mean for me? What does that future contact look like? So it's always a learning process, and until they make the decision, they may not take that next step, or they may kind of be living in that place of denial, hoping they're not pregnant, but knowing they are, and or maybe they meant to call and they never did. Anything like that can lead to a sudden situation. Um, so what happens when a woman calls, and it's interesting, Kim, we just had this happen on Labor Day. In fact, I'll talk about Labor Day in just a minute. But what what happens is sometimes a woman will call, and we offer her, do you want to choose the family? Because sometimes they do. I know I had a young woman call me in labor from outside a hospital, never had called us before, wanted to make an adoption plan. Her question was, is it too late? And the answer was, of course, no. And I asked her, do you want to choose the family? And she said yes. I said, is there something specific you're looking for? And she said no. So I just took a few details about her, the race of the baby, if she'd used any substances. And I was able to text her. And then I told her, go into the hospital, start checking yourself in. I will text you families. And I was able to connect with someone at the hospital, and I text her a few families based on, who could get, oh, she did want the family to get there quickly. So, in that case, I kind of looked at geography, text her a few families. I said, look at these. If you want someone different, I can send more. She chose one, and off they were. I called the family. We got everything put together. They were there in just a couple hours. But it really is dependent on what the birth mother wants. Sometimes, like that example, she did want to choose the family. Um, Sometimes with the woman who called on Labor Day, very similar. She called from the hospital. Um, Actually, I think her mother called. She was a teenager. Her mother called, and they decided they wanted to do this, and they did not choose to pick the family. They just wanted a family who could provide, a loving home, a stable home, and would be open to contact in the future if they decided they wanted that. So what our team does then is we look at first at who's open to the situation, based again on race, on substance use, on anything like that, gender perhaps. And then often they just kind of have to look at some other things that are a part of their training, risk factors. We may not want to have someone fly in from Alaska to a delivery in Georgia when this is out of the blue and we're not 100% sure if, how serious she is about it, because that's a big commitment. In that case, that also takes a long time to get there. With a sudden situation like that, it may be best to have a family that can get there quicker. Um, in the case of Labor Day, we did have some families who could have gotten there quicker, but the coordinator went with a family who was one of our longer waiting families and had just had a fall through with someone else. Um, so it's one of those things that every situation like that is different. Those last minute situations where Lifetime chooses a family or the birth mother chooses, but we're always looking at what families are open to, what they're hoping for, and it's really an exciting time now. Now getting back, Kim, to what I mentioned about Labor Day. So one of our this is so fresh in my mind because we had a private Q&A call with one of our birth mother coordinators yesterday for our Lifetime families. And it was with Veronica. Veronica was actually manning our 24-hour hotline on the Labor Day holiday. So she was available to talk to any woman who wanted to call and talk about adoption and just do what we consider just the routine of being available to take those calls, answer those questions, email out information. She got that call from that young woman's mother saying, my daughter just had a baby and we'd like to make an adoption plan. So she was getting that all put together, and the family was able to travel and be with their baby before the end of that day. And then also that day, she got another call from a woman who wanted to learn about adoption. She had just discovered she was pregnant. She wasn't sure how far along she was. Well, come to find out, she was pretty late in her pregnancy because she delivered her baby last Friday, the 21st. So that was just not even 3 weeks after the initial call. And that family was able to, she chose a family and they were able to travel, and birth mother has already, gone ahead and signed all the papers and everything. So it can happen that fast. Those were two families who, the Sunday before Labor Day, yes, they were home study ready. They had their website done. They had everything, but they did not have a clue, nor did we, that God had anything in the works. And here, Labor Day was on September 3rd. We're here September 27th, and both of those families, they're home with their babies. So
Mhm.
I just share that because it just demonstrates how quickly it can happen, and kind of just what experiences can be like in Lifetime's program. Now that second one I mentioned, Kim, where she called and she was still pregnant, um, she she oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, she was able to meet and choose the family. And I think one of the neat things about that one is she is not interested in having any future contact, nor is the birth father. However, her mother, the birth grandmother, wanted to keep in touch and wanted to come out and see
Mm.
the baby, and the family was more than welcoming to her. So it's just really kind of a sweet story, and it also demonstrates that sometimes open adoption looks different than what we prepare or expect. And in this case, the family got an open adoption, but not with the parents. They got a grandma as a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Do most birth moms want contact after? I mean, it seems to me like it's pretty unusual for a woman to end up not wanting contact after. What is the best expectation? Well, I know we ask families not to have expectations, so that way it's a little bit more
Yeah.
flexible. But
Most
yeah, what would
women
you say about?
most women
Mhm.
do want to have contact, but it similar to families, it's kind of hard to say specifically what they want when maybe they haven't met the family yet. They don't know how they're going to feel. Um, Honestly, Kim, what we see the most is it's kind of a natural development once they meet. If a family and a birth mother really hit it off, the relationship may be different than either of them were anticipating. A great example of that is an adoption we helped with about, gosh, I think it's been about 7 years ago now. And it was a birth mother who said she didn't really want any contact. The family was open, but they weren't what I would call overly open. They were open to getting together once a year for a visit, but that's kind of where they drew the line. But when they met, when she had her baby, they hit it off. It was like when you meet someone, you feel like you've known them forever. And they talked before, but it was really that time spent together in the hospital where it was almost like the adoptive mother and the birth mother, all of it, they felt this sisterly bond. Now, these are two families who literally plan vacations together because they're so close. Yes, it's because of the child, but their relationship has gotten to be completely independent of the child. And I think one of the neat things about it is understanding that different in the 50s and 60s when women were forced to choose adoption, maybe not forced, like, you have to do it or else. It was more of a social pressure. It wasn't acceptable to be an unmarried pregnant woman. It just wasn't. So they were really pushed and pressured to do adoption. Today, that pressure no longer exists. I mean, it absolutely in this country does not exist. So the women who are choosing adoption are choosing it in spite of the reverse, in spite of pressure to parent. Many of these women have their mothers saying, well, I'm going to disown you if you place your baby for adoption. They have their friends saying, "Oh, I'll help you. It'll be fun." They have, they have a government that says, "Keep your baby. We'll give you more money." They do not have the same support to place. So when women are placing for adoption, when they want that contact afterward, it's not to hold on to the child, because honestly, they've got plenty of opportunities to parent. And people, like I say, are encouraging them to parent. Placing is making the harder decision, and they don't want the contact to parent that child. They want that contact to find that peace in their heart that they made the right decision. They want to know that they're not going to be forgotten. They want to know that, you are sharing the child's story with them, which can really be such a benefit for the child, because the child never has to wonder, why did my mother place me for adoption? Did she not love me? The child will know absolutely, that she loved them so much that she wanted more for them than she could provide. That child will never have to be told at 8 or 10 or 12 years old, your father and I have something to tell you. You're not biologically, us. We adopted you. They're going to know from the very beginning. There's just amazing board books and children's books out there that share the love of adoption, and the child will never have to make that decision at 18 or 21. Should I go find my birth mother? He or she will know their birth mother. Even if contact has faded off, they will know that that door was always open for her. If she's got the peace and moved on, maybe they connect, maybe they don't. But at that point, it's not this big secretive deal. Like, I wonder what she's like. Yeah, you may wonder what she's like. But, with Facebook and all these websites like Truth Finder, and, you can find anyone in 5 minutes. Anyone. Maybe you can't find them, but you can find out an awful lot about them. And so it's even in a secretive situation, it's not as secret as you think it. Nothing is as secret as we think it is anymore. So,
That's true.
um, kind of looping back to your question, Kim, yes, most birth mothers want contact, at least letters and photos. Typically, they want the option of an annual visit, but truly, what open adoption looks like has to do with how the relationship naturally develops, which nobody can predict.
Mm. And I think it's very eye-opening sometimes for families who might come into adoption um, a little apprehensive about open adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their apprehension comes from just not having had basic questions answered, like, does open adoption leave the door open for her to take a child back later? No, it doesn't. Who decides the parameters of open adoption? It's usually naturally agreed upon, like maybe you'll offer to send her letters and photos twice a year and have an annual visit. I would say that's a pretty standard format
Mm-hmm.
that most families can get on board with, and most birth moms feel at peace with that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have questions about, will it confuse the child? And
Mm-hmm.
we have not seen it confuse the child, as you can hear from Heather's description of how it actually is so helpful for the child never to have to wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think also the biggest thing that we see here at Lifetime internally behind the scenes as we're working with birth mothers every day, and what families discover as they work with us that they really don't know prior to coming into our program, is that the intention of that birth mother changes everything. Once adoptive parents understand that her intention is for this child to be yours, she wants you to be mom and dad. She is choosing you because of the things that you have shared are important to you, your faith, your values, the standards, the lifestyle, your personality, how you plan to parent, traditions you intend to and look forward to sharing with the child. She has read through that, combed through it, and decided you fit the picture of what she has in mind for parents for her baby.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that she's intentionally placing this baby with you, not against her will, but of her free will,
Right.
and putting that baby's needs above hers, she wouldn't do anything to take away from that, tear apart a family. So I think when families can really wrap their hearts around a birth mother's intentions, look from her point of view, the real reasons why she's doing this and sacrificing so much, I think that gives families a great deal of peace of mind in open adoption, just understanding that her intentions are sincere. And I think most of our birth mothers, they choose adoption for newborns. It's like 95 to 97% newborn adoption here. These are all voluntary relinquishments. That's usually because they really have a great concern for this child to get into the family as soon as possible, start bonding. I know, Heather, you shared with me, we get a lot of requests from birth mothers. One of their most common things is they want a family that will accept this child as their own.
Mm-hmm.
That's a concern for birth moms.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that helps if anyone did have any apprehension about open adoption. That's certainly a great topic that we enjoy discussing one-on-one. So if you have questions about that, more specific to your train of thought or experience, definitely let us know. We see healthy open adoption connections all the time through our program that really do last year after year peacefully, and we love hearing the updates too of how everyone's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, you were talking earlier about how it's so easy to find people. How does Lifetime find birth mothers? I get this question a lot, actually. Can
Well,
you share a little about outreach? How do birth mothers find us?
that's a great question. When Marty Caldwell, our founder, started Lifetime 32 years ago, that was really one of the things she had to do right off the bat. She had gone to an agency meeting, she and her husband. She was 30 years old. He was 40 years old. And they were told during the meeting that they really, mind you, she had lost 7 pregnancies. They were told during the meeting that they really need to focus on just an older child because he was too old and she was too fat. She was a size 16. Um, and they left that meeting absolutely heartbroken. I think as most any couple going to adopt a baby would be to, put the time in and attend only to be judged for, your husband's age and your size. So she left that meeting and she had her own business at the time and really what she was doing very well in that business, that was marketing it. And, she went home and after spending some time decided, you know what, I'm not going to take no as an answer. Basically, she wanted to be a mother and she wanted a baby. She didn't want an older child. By older child, they were encouraging between 8 and 12. So she thought, there must be other couples like us out there. So she made up a few flyers and put them at church in different places and said, let's do a support group, thinking, maybe I can help other families and ourselves here, find pregnant women who want more choices than agencies are providing them. So the very first support group meeting she had, it overflowed her condo. And so they quickly moved to the church for the next one. And she found that she certainly was not alone. There were many families like them who were dealing with fertility issues, who perhaps didn't have the funds or the desire to do fertility treatments, wanted to adopt, but really had been told by agencies there's little hope. So she kind of put her marketing hat on and started reaching out to places where pregnant women might be and just relaying to them, here's some families that are open to this new, at the time, concept of open adoption, and that's how Lifetime really started, from a grassroots place, was Marty reaching out, sharing what open adoption can be, what it can offer for women. They can have more choices, not just in the contact. They can choose the families. That wasn't really something that was going on at that time widely. They can choose the families, talk to them, get to know them, even, have control about what goes on at the hospital. They can see their baby, they can hold their baby. So it started really from a place of education. And that really holds true today. One of the things that I do a lot of, and we have people on our staff that do, is we go and talk to medical professionals who work with pregnant women and share with them not only the services Lifetime provides, but also educate them on how they can present adoption to women so they can make an informed decision about their pregnancy choices. Because women today, they don't know what adoption is, and how can you make a decision if you don't know what something is? So we have a really solid educational program for healthcare professionals and others. We focus a lot of outreach in our online. We used to, when phone books were still around, do a lot of online or phone book advertising. We do a lot of online, very targeted marketing. We have relationships with many people who work with pregnant women who have our brochures, have our materials. Sometimes they have our family profiles. So it's a whole program. And then, one of the things, Kim, that Marty has always been on the forefront of is technology. Lifetime created the first app for adoption. It's called Open Adoption. It's in the App Store. It's on Google Play. And it is geared toward birth mothers. And not only can birth mothers learn about adoption there, they can see waiting families right there. They can learn more about lifetime families who are ready to adopt. And that's been a big difference for some of the healthcare organizations we work with, because they can access the app on their iPad. If they're working with a woman, they can show her families right there who they know have had the vetting process, and they're trusted partners of lifetime. So that's how they can show them right there. So these are just some of the ways that we are constantly trying to work toward getting not just adoption out there more, but also lifetime and our wonderful families out there. Because that's really what you need. In order to adopt, you need to be chosen by a birth mother. I'd love to tell you that, no, it's lifetime picking the families, but the reality of it is that's getting more and more uncommon as women now know they can make their choices. So, like I say, those are
I think
those are just some
too,
of the things. Go ahead.
birth mothers feel a lot more confident in their choice if they had a say in how everything went and the type of family and specific family. I think that contributes greatly to the stability that no one made those choices for her.
Mhm.
She had the option of to choose a family or not choose. Usually they do choose.
Mhm.
But I think, as we know from just any type of decision making, the more um, input you have in the little decisions along the way, the more confident you feel about the total outcome.
Mhm.
So she is
Absolutely.
in that, position of creating this adoption plan. And that's not to say that families are just picked by just any birth mother, no matter if they're open to her or not. There's a
Mhm.
whole other side to the matching process, which also starts with you and your application on our website. Like I said, that's online at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. You'll start to see some of those preliminary preferences questions
Mhm.
that most families are able to answer. If you're unsure about any of that, just answer it to the best of your ability. We will discuss it during our phone conference together and go into further detail into other areas that factor into whether or not a birth mother is the right fit for you and that you would love to be chosen by her. So it's a mutual match. She's got to feel confident, and this adoption has to be within what the adoptive parents have thought about, prayed about, researched, decided these are their criteria. Any birth mother within these, such as being a healthy baby, a
Mhm.
newborn, certain race, if they're open on gender, which most families are, those kinds of things, and the level of open adoption the birth mother is requesting. All of that has to match. So it's not as though you're just getting chosen, you know, by anyone, but you're chosen by someone you want to be chosen by. And we really discuss that with you to customize that even beyond the check boxes in some cases, to add more detail to where detail is needed beyond those check boxes. And then our coordinators, birth mother coordinators, are looking through your file each and every time that you are coming up as a possible match to ensure that when we send your profile to a birth mother and she's interested in you, the most likely outcome is that you want to be chosen by her, and
Mhm.
we would never knowingly put you in a position of being chosen by someone that's just not a fit. There's just so much foundation set up prior to that birth mother knowing about you. So it is a mutual match. Now, you were saying, Heather, about we don't pick the families. Birth mothers typically choose the match for their baby. And we had a family say, we don't have a technical background. How hard is it to create a website?
Oh.
And I get this question too during conferences.
Mm-hmm.
You see everyone having a web profile.
Oh,
What
yeah.
does that mean? How do they? Mhm.
At Lifetime, that's one of the things that Marty really feels strongly about is that, we don't turn you loose and say, okay, you do that and get back to us. We walk you through the process, not only of your website, but also of your profile. And when I say your website, that sounds overwhelming. Setting up your Lifetime website is very simple. You get a login to our website builder, you upload a few photos, you put in your words, and then our team helps you proofread those and maybe add in areas or take away in areas or gives you ideas or helps crop photos, things like that. It is probably easier than building a profile on Facebook. It is really, there is nothing to it. And if you need help, there are absolutely coordinators who that is their main job, is to help you with that. So there's always someone to ask. And then after the website is done, and literally it's very quickly, it's very easy. You need no technical skills to do it. Then we kind of shift gears and help you with your profile. And that's something that a lot of our families really enjoy doing. We send you samples of profiles of recent families who've been chosen from those profiles by a birth mother. And so you can kind of see, we walk you through it. And if you're a family who maybe you're a military family, your husband's deployed and you work full time and you just don't have time to do that, we have programs where we can help physically do it for you. So there's a wide variety of options, but I think one of the most unique things about our profile program, Kim, is that it is constantly changing based on birth mother feedback. If you're a family working on your profile today, you're hearing something different than a family did even just 6 months ago, because as women change, as they tell us what they like, as they tell us what they don't like, we're constantly making sure that program is evolving, and the advice and the things we share with you are very specific.
Absolutely. And we have a variety of ways of presenting birth mothers with profiles, so they can receive them instantly. They can receive a shorter version, a longer version in the mail, whatever they want. Sometimes they'll receive your profile first online. They'll look at your profile, and then from there they'll be receiving it via email, your full-length profile. So also your video. They can view your video on your profile, and the video really helps bring you to life. So that would be the next thing, right? After the web profile, after the printed profile, then just jump right into creating your little 2-3 minute video,
Right. And
and we'll
again,
put the finishing touches on
right,
it.
that's what I was going to say. We put the finishing touches on, and for families who are really uncomfortable with that, we have other options for that as well. But um, it is something that birth mothers really respond to.
Someone asked while we were talking about the web profile, they asked, is the website completed as part of the application process or after choosing Lifetime? So actually, yeah, we don't share your private application online at all. We want to talk with you, get to know you first. And there's a difference between the type of information you share with us in the application as your adoption professional
Hmm.
versus the kinds of things birth moms want to know. Well, we do ask on the application some of the things birth moms want to know, but we also want to know your ability to, we want to do a little bit of pre-screening as well. So like, is there any criminal history, drug or alcohol abuse problems, any current medical problems, those kinds of questions. We don't necessarily share that with birth moms in your profile at all, but
Hmm.
these are good pre-screening questions that we can discuss with you to see if that poses a challenge or no challenge at all.
Hmm.
And then your profile, what type of information would you say is or isn't in the profile, just to kind of ease people's minds about what's shared in a profile with birth mothers?
Well, I can only speak to Lifetime, so don't take what I'm doing
Okay.
and but at Lifetime, we do not share personal information. We do not share your city, or we do not encourage you to share your city, your age, your college, your employer, not identifying information. We also encourage you not to put last names in. The flip side is we want you to put in what makes you different, what makes your family stand out. And that's what our team really does, is we help you identify what those things are. And by sharing with you samples of recent profiles that birth mothers have chosen, you really get an idea of that. Our samples aren't something that we made in-house and send out to you. And you'll see that because they are different, but it is, it really gives you an idea. And so you can take that and think, okay, what is it about my husband that, that will make him a great dad? Or what is it about him that, is one of the things that, stood out to me as his wife? If I were doing a profile, it's funny, Kim, when my husband and I were dating, the whole fishing concept never came up. But once we moved to Northern California, where there was actually more water, that was one of the things that really he really got into with his father. And in raising our two boys, that is something that he has really taught them, and they're both competitive fishermen. So it's one of those things that, to me, that's something I would put in a profile, because that is something that is who he is. And I know inevitably we have people that say, oh, but there's nothing like that that's special about me. There is something that is special and unique about every single one of us. And that's what our team will do, is
Mm-hmm.
they'll really help you. One of Marty's classic stories is she was working with a couple, and they were a little on the older side and a little on the fluffier side, and they lived in a mobile home. So they were really struggling with, okay, well, but why is anybody going to pick us? And she was talking and sharing with them, and she turned to the husband and said, you know, tell me some of the things you love about your wife. And he named a few things, and he ended with, and she makes the best chocolate chip cookies. So Marty said, that's perfect. And they worked together on creating about her chocolate chip cookies, and how wonderful they are. And they just, the whole house smells, and she can't wait to, have a little one that she can, make chocolate chip cookies with, and afterwards they can snuggle up with their plate of cookies on her lap and read a story together. Now you're telling a story that, alongside with pictures, all of a sudden that mama with the fluffy lap and the plate of homemade cookies, now that's something. So that's what I mean. There is something about every one of you. And if you don't know what it is, we can help you with that.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I love that chocolate chips cookie story. Such a warm fuzzy whenever I hear it.
Hmm.
But also, if you want to get to know one of our profile coordinators, Catherine did a Facebook Live fairly
Yeah,
recently.
she
Her
did. That
video,
was
I
good.
believe, it was great. And she talks about how she goes about helping people draw out those unique features of
Hmm.
themselves and bring those to life in your profile. And that's on Facebook. So if you go onto Facebook and look up Lifetime Adoption Center, or just type in facebook.com/open.adoption and then click on the videos tab, you'll be able to see a whole ton of videos, with different staff talking, sharing, answering questions. And there is one at least with Catherine in it. So that's fun to see and learn a little bit more. Someone was asking, I wanted to be sure to get to this question. Let's see. How many waiting families? How many expectant mothers? So we typically work with about 200 adoptive parents at a time, nationwide, all with different characteristics, hand chosen for our program. So you go through the application process, and then we offer to assist in your adoption because we want to partner with you. And we feel like it's realistic for you to expect success as long as you're following the program here. We want to have that partnership with you. So we look for a variety of characteristics that are always changing. We don't have a set in stone list of criteria for our program, but it's more based on the comings and goings of birth mothers and what they're requesting, and those kinds of things, as well as the families that are already here, and if they have some specific characteristics characteristics or preferences that may cause maybe a longer wait, expectancy, then of course we'll keep those to a smaller group so they can have more of a likelihood of success in a shorter time. And as far as on the birth mother side, we are typically assisting over 400 women nationwide in our outreach and support program. That does not mean every single one of them would complete an adoption, because it is an education and support program. It's a process, and they're all over the place too as far as where they are in their experience of discovering pregnancy, figuring out what they're going to do, listening to friends and family and what their opinions are, and really figuring out what she wants that baby's life to be like and what she wants her own life to be like. So certainly over 100 a year, around 120 a year are completing adoptions. So I always like to say, 400 to 200, it's not like matching up socks. There's certainly a lot more to it. It's not like two for everyone. There's a lot more to it than that. And we love that we get to hear from new birth mothers every day. And we love that we get to help them make a decision they're confident about, whether they end up, choosing to parent, and we can point them to resources in their own local community that are geared toward parenting, and assisting with that, getting her diapers and formula and childcare set up in her local community. Certainly no woman in our country today is forced to choose adoption. Every woman here has options. There's government assistance. There are community resources. There are people that will help her. But usually women who are choosing adoption are choosing it for far more than financial reasons, although that is often part of the scenario, but not the ultimate decision-making factor. Heather, what would you say as far as why women are choosing adoption for their babies?
Primarily because they want their child to have what they know they themselves cannot provide right now. That's what we hear far and away. That does not mean they're looking for Barbie and Ken. That does not mean they're looking for who has the largest house. It means they're looking for love, for stability, for more than they can provide. Many of the women we work with are, in fact, the average birth mother is already parenting. She already has children. Women who choose adoption are typically not your sweet 16-year-old who made a mistake with their boyfriend. They are already moms. They know what it takes. They don't have more to give, whether it's time, money, emotion. They usually are doing this on their own, meaning there is no man involved with their other kids and probably not involved with this one. I mean, there are always situations where he is involved or he is in agreement. I'm just kind of going over typical. They may be too far along to consider or afford an abortion. They may not believe in abortion. They may, I mean, I can tell stories all day long of women in different scenarios that have happened, but ultimately they're choosing adoption because they want something for their child that they can't provide.
Speaking of stability and the things that birth mothers are looking for in a family, and I don't know exactly specifically what the challenge is that she is facing, but she said something about, we applied and we were approved, but we need to wait 6 more months to work on some relationship goals. Is that possible? Certainly that is possible. Families who apply with us, we get an idea of what your plans are, if there are any challenges preventing you from moving forward. Check for an opening closer to the time when you're ready if necessary. So we'll customize the timing according to what is going to work for you. There's no pressure to all of a sudden have to move forward before you're ready. Certainly most couples that are applying with us have both decided that they do want to be parents, and they are both open to the idea of adoption, or maybe they've decided, or they just know that adoption is the way that they'll become parents. For some families, there isn't really another option out there, and maybe they've already had adoption on their hearts. but now they know it's time, and nobody's getting any younger, of course, as we always say. But what do you think as far as if they have some things to work on in their relationship? How would a couple know? I mean, what can they work on to be able to be that stable, loving couple that a birth mother is looking for? I know you often recommend marriage counseling, even though there may not be challenges in the relationship.
Right. And really, it's one of those things that it's kind of like if you are conceiving a baby biologically, you know, you just have to be in that place where you believe that this is the logical next step. You're both on the same page. If you feel like you have a challenge, work on it. Because certainly, no matter how a baby comes into our lives, when you have another mouth to feed, person to care for and be responsible for, it can put stress on a relationship. Um, Little cracks all of a sudden seem a little more cavernous. um, you really want to, and how Kim, I think is kind of how if there's something, if you think that your husband is drinking too much in the evening, you know what? Sit down and have a conversation about that. Tell him how you feel. Be open, be honest, and if that means, well, I don't, I really don't think that we should have a child because I think you're drinking too much in the evening. Have that conversation. um, deal with issues, both of you deal with issues. If he doesn't think you keep the house clean enough, then let's talk about it and let's, come up with a plan. Talk about those things until you are both feeling that you are happy, you are in love and stable with each other, that you're ready to take the responsibility on. And that certainly isn't just for adoption. That should be for parenting of any type, which is one of the reasons
Mm,
that we have women considering adoption. So I think that you mentioned 6 months, and surely we don't know much more about the challenges, but
mm-hmm.
I will say, um, I wouldn't be putting time frames on it,
Yeah.
because some may take more time, it may take less time, but you do want to be in that place if you're also happily stepping into this together. And no, I think one of the big questions we usually get that we haven't got yet, Kim, is how do we know when it's time to move from, fertility treatments
Fertility.
to
Mm-hmm.
adoption?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same answer. You know, you just have to start. Um, with the fertility treatments, what I always like to say is just because you move to adoption doesn't mean you're forever giving up on being pregnant. And the same with those goals or challenges you have, whatever it is, deal with it and work it out. You don't want to put moving forward off too long. I know we had a couple who recently applied, and he was 62 and she was 57, and they were applying for a newborn baby. And honestly, I think their reason for adopting was that they'd been working on this and that and the other, and they just never got around to it, but now they were in a good place. Well, a birth mother's not going to choose a man who's 62 and a woman who's 57. It's just not one of those things that is probably going to happen unless there's something remarkable about them and who they are and what they're open to, and that they're open to a 8-year-old or something like that. It's just, you're looking at, a dad who's going to be 80 when that child graduates from high school, and that's assuming they got picked while he was still 62. So my point in all this is, whatever you're working on, work on it and don't put it off too long, because time is one of those things that we can't get back. Now, if it's finances you're working on, if it's getting out of debt, if it is getting into a new house, getting a new job, whatever those types of things are. Lifetime can definitely help you with some options. We do have a payment plan
Hmm.
option. We also have a deposit option for families who want to get started, but they're not ready to jump in with both feet yet. That's why I love the payment plan, because what it does is it lets you get started, and then we start with your profile. You have access to our entire team. Um, on getting your website, your profile, getting all that done. You get our we have every family has a coordinator that's dedicated to them. So you have access to your coordinator to ask, get your home study referrals, get that going. Attend our, we have private webinars like this, but they're just for lifetime families, so the content is different. We have those twice a month. You'll have access to those. We have our private membership site that has just so much information and help and um, and files, different things for families. We have our lifetime family portal. Every family can log in and they can communicate with their coordinator there. They can see their documents. What families love the most about it is there's this little status bar that shows where they're at. So when your status bar is at 100%, you know you are 100% adoption ready. You know you are doing everything you need to do. Your home studies current, your profile's done, your website, everything is done. You're good. Um, so you have access to all of that. And one of the things I think, Kim, that families like the most when they're in that waiting place is to be able to connect either live or with the recorded webinars and hear those stories, take the opportunity to learn from those lifetime families and prepare. We have calls that talk about the match, talk about caring for your birth mother, legal calls, home study calls, lots of wonderful, wonderful education that is available 24/7. In addition, like I say, you've got your coordinator who's happy to answer questions too. But sometimes there's so much to be learned from other people and their stories, and that's one of the things I think that adoptive families have shared, that they love that so much.
And we've talked a lot about the profile development, helping you become adoption ready. We've talked about our outreach. We talked about drop in the lap or sudden adoption opportunities. Someone asked, what support is provided for the adoptive parents other than assistance in developing their profiles? So of
Oh,
course, we are presenting you to birth mothers, and maybe Heather, you can take it from there as to what
yeah.
all the flow is. Multiple birth mothers
Oh, yeah.
looking at you at any given time. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
Lifetime is far more than just a profile development company. We
Yeah.
you do have a dedicated coordinator who will help you with referrals for your home study and helping coordinate that if needed. Um, we have a whole separate team of our birth mother coordinators who are presenting you to birth mothers literally around the clock. We mail your profiles out. We email your PDFs. We send links to your page, all individually. These aren't like group mass things going out. I mentioned the young lady who called outside of the emergency room in labor. I literally went and looked up, based on preferences, what families would be open to her and who lives in a close enough driving distance, and got links to their website and text them to her phone. I mean, that's the type of thing we are doing around the clock. Um, really, we are also screening and educating those women for you, which what that does is that helps with a lot of fraud and scam. There's a lot people don't know that adoption is often very fraught with frauds and scams, and by that it is women posing as birth mothers who say all the right words, have all the right
Mm-hmm.
documents, and they need $500 Friday afternoon because they're getting kicked out and they don't have anywhere to go and they're 7 months pregnant. And and this is one way families lose a tremendous amount of money, tremendous amount of emotion, and especially for families who are on a little more limited budget. If that's your one shot, it's gone. There's nothing you can do to get it back. I mean, you can try to
Mm-hmm.
press charges, but then, you know, it's trying to get blood out of a turnip. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what life does. That's a big part of it too. We're screening the women. We're getting them the paperwork, getting it back from them, requesting their medical records, helping them get in to see a doctor if they haven't gotten their prenatal care. Um, and doing that screening that is so valuable to families, especially families who've been through something difficult like that outside of Lifetime. And then when the birth mother is ready to talk to you, that's when we call you, share everything we have. You can decide if you wish to speak with her. If you do, then we set up a time. You talk with her. Afterwards, you both get back to your coordinator. If you feel this is a good match and she also agrees, then we consider you matched. We kind of move into our next phase, which is helping coordinate the day of delivery, helping you with those legal referrals, notifying the hospital, getting birth mother, whatever she needs. Along the way, we're also taking care of her through things like, we send her a labor bag that has just some sweet little things that will be helpful to her when she goes to deliver. Because when you're going to deliver a baby that you're placing for adoption, packing your bag for the hospital is a little different. We send
Mm-hmm.
her we send her a nice little gift when she decides to match with you. We just many of these women don't have anyone in their lives that are supportive of them choosing adoption. And so we want to know that regardless of their ultimate decision, we care about them just for reaching out and learning about it. But we help you coordinate everything. Many times women call us after hours to let us know they're in labor, so we call you. We again continue to help arrange things, get the documents you need to the attorneys. Really just walk with you every step of the way. And that includes after the adoption. We keep in touch with the birth mother. If she's struggling, we're her first go-to, and we can help her arrange that counseling or get some of her other needs met. So you can, focus on enjoying that time with your baby. But, throughout the process, it really is a walking with you through this. And that's why we have families who've come to Lifetime for a second, even a third lifetime adoption, because because they wanted a partner through the journey. They didn't want someone to give them a phone number of a birth mom and say, here you go, let us know how it turns out. No, we stay with you every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We got some great feedback from Sarah. She said, this was a super great call. I wish these calls could all be saved and uploaded as podcast episodes. I just love the hearts of your staff. Well,
Aw.
we do. Thank you so much, Sarah. I want to let you know we do record these. They're on adoptionwebinar.com. Those are great words. We love hearing that. I'm so glad that this was, a positive experience, and hopefully you are more encouraged and more informed than when we started an hour ago, or I guess 57 minutes ago. And we appreciate you all for being here with us tonight. There are some questions that went unanswered. The best way to fully engage with us in getting your specific questions answered would be to take 15 minutes, fill out the application on our website, so that way we can explore further with you, knowing a little more about what your preferences are, and check to see if we have an opening in our program to help you either now or sometime maybe in the future. And that's at lifetimeadoption.com/apply. So I encourage you to take that step. There is no obligation with that. If you are already working with your coordinator, be sure to let her know if you had any questions that went unanswered tonight. And be sure to keep her posted on any updates or if you need assistance with anything. And if you are in the program working with Lifetime right now, be sure to maintain your adoption readiness, stay up to date on your check-ins, be sure to attend first and foremost your private webinars, and these are just like extra credit. But we appreciate you all for being here with us. You can find us on social media on Facebook and Instagram, and be sure to reach out if there's anything else that we can help you with. The number here is 1-800-923-6784. And we got another comment that says, thank you. This was very informative. We look forward to talking with our coordinator. That's awesome. I'm so glad that it could help you. Well, thank you all. And Heather, thank you for being with us tonight as well.
Thank you, Kim, for hosting.
Have a great night, everyone.